host, you will be letting me know when you're ready.
Yeah, do we have Steve Bell confirmed?
We do not.
Okay, David White, city solicitor is available as well. If you can
He has been added.
okay, thank you.
I was not going to mention him in my remarks unless you would like me to.
Sorry, you were not going to.
Mention David in my remarks.
I think maybe you should just say, I think you list other people who are here. You should probably list it.
Okay.
Maybe some legal questions. Thanks.
Will do, Mr. Mayor. Are you all ready?
Steve and I are all set here.
Okay, I will just check with tech. Okay, we will start in 10 seconds. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Thank you for joining us. Merci d'être parmi nous aujourd'hui. My name is Kina Leclerc and I will be your moderator. Je m'appelle Kina Leclerc et je serai l'animatrice de ce point de presse. Before we begin, a quick reminder to place yourself on mute until I invite you to speak or to ask your questions. Available for questions from the media, we have disponible pour répondre aux questions des médias, nous accueillons. In council chambers, Mayor le Maire Jim Watson, Steve Canelacos, City Manager, Directeur Municipal. Phoning in today, we have Kim Ayotte, General Manager, Emergency and Protective Services, Directeur Général, Service de protection et d'urgence, and David White, City Solicitor. Please note that the Ottawa Police Service is not able to attend today's media availability. They will have information available later today. Veuillez noter que le service de police ne sera pas au point de presse aujourd'hui. Ils fourniront de l'information plus tard aujourd'hui. I will now invite each agency to ask their question. You may ask one question and one follow-up. Par ordre alphabétique, j'invite maintenant chaque organisme à poser une question et une question de suivi. If for some reason we lose you during the call, please try phoning in again or contact Media Relations to submit your questions. So we will now start with, nous allons commencer avec Jadrino Huot à 94.9 Rouge FM.
J'ai aucune question pour le moment.
Merci, Jadrino. Yannick Saint-Denis, avez-vous des questions?
Oui, bonjour.
You have questions? Probably for Mr. Ayotte. What are the last developments? What do you know about the occupation? Are there less truckers today or more? I heard that some may have arrived on Clarence this morning in the Byward Market. What can you tell us so far? Not much development. Several trucks left downtown yesterday. We can't confirm that they are out of the city, and there are other trucks coming in, so maybe they're just moving around. There's a few trucks less than yesterday downtown, not much, but that's basically the same as it was yesterday. Did you really succeed in identifying one responsible person with whom it's easy to communicate, or is it still very difficult to communicate? I really can't talk on behalf of the police, but I can ask Media Relations to give you this information. They will get the answer for you. I understand that there are several people speaking. Police are always in contact with them, but I can't talk on behalf of the police service. So you'll have to redirect your question to the police service.
Now go to Laura Osman at Canadian Press.
Thanks so much. My first question is for Mayor Watson. Obviously, you met with your federal counterparts yesterday. You're meeting again with your provincial ones today. I know you said they're putting together a timeline for when they might be able to get those resources you've asked for. Do you have a sense of how long it's going to take? Is it still in the 24 to 48 hour range?
Yeah, thank you, Laura. The meeting, which was held over Zoom, and the phone calls I've had with senior officials from the federal government was very encouraging and very positive. The Prime Minister committed that we will be getting more resources. Our staff now are working out the timing and the numbers, because obviously we're not going to have everyone that we've asked for arrive immediately, but it will be spread out over a number of days. So when we get that information, we'll be happy to pass it along. But the signal and the response we received from Minister Blair, Minister Mendicini, and the Prime Minister was all very supportive, because they understand that our resources are stretched to the limit and we need that extra help. And that will be the message I'll be giving to the Solicitor General of Ontario when I speak with her later today. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I also wanted to ask about the process for an injunction. Several councillors obviously indicating that they would like to see the city go that way. However, there was some discussion of whether those conversations should be happening in public. What is the mechanism for the city filing an injunction? Is this something that would happen sort of behind closed doors before it's filed? And is there a reticence on the part of legal services to move ahead without sort of the indication from police that that's something that they want?
We have David White, our city solicitor.
Yes, in terms of the process, it's kind of well laid out. An injunction is kind of part and parcel of a broader, there has to be an underlying action. And so it would be commenced by an action, and then the injunction would be brought immediately as part of it. As to whether it would be brought against a particular individual or identified individual, or what's known as ex parte, where essentially without notice, that's something that is always part of what the approach and the strategy needs to be. And so that depends on the nature of the injunction. Is there any reticence? I wouldn't suggest that there's any reticence, but I think there's an appreciation that an injunction, certainly one brought by the city, is something that should be complementary and in support of the overall police response to the protest. So that's why there's been, again, coordination between my office and the police in that regard.
Thank you very much. We will now go to Kate Porter at CBC Ottawa.
Hi there, thanks. Following up on a couple of the things Laura just asked, Mayor Watson, I mean, Chief Slowly had said 72 hours. He'd hoped to see officers. That would be up, I guess, tomorrow, right? And we're losing the work week, I almost want to say. Are you worried that we're not going to actually see officers on the ground helping make a difference during the weekdays, or perhaps you understand that some officers have indeed shown up that we don't know of?
Sorry, Laura, or Kate, could you just repeat the last portion? It got cut off.
Yeah, mostly about worried they won't come in time for the weekend, but possibly you could confirm if any have indeed shown up, since we last heard from the police.
Excuse me. Yeah, the police would have to answer that. I don't believe so, because we just had the meeting yesterday to go through some of the logistics. But I have every confidence that we'll see additional officers here for the weekends, which tend to be the more challenging times with respect to behavior down in the red zone. And then the following week, start to see numbers ramp up considerably. So as you know, many of the officers will have to come in from different parts of the country, not just the province. And there are some logistic challenges, but I made it very clear that there is a sense of urgency, that we need these officers sooner than later. And that message was received and acknowledged by the officials that I spoke with. Thank you.
And then on the injunction, I mean, a number of people in the community have said, the city could have done it much earlier, and it could have shown some leadership, right, in asking for an injunction. Do you think that the city could have perhaps taken that step far earlier than talking about it now, almost 2 weeks in?
Well, I think that's more of a question for the city solicitor. I'm not well enough versed on the process that has to be followed. We would take direction, as David said earlier at council, from the police in terms of what they're asking for. So I don't know, David, if you could just better explain that than I, because you're a lawyer and I'm not.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Of course, the application for an injunction, the move to restrain some behavior that's going on is something, again, that I think the city would considers very carefully. At the end of the day, we appreciate that for whatever court order to be effective requires enforcement. And as any number of people have pointed out, at its root, this is a policing operation. And so our aim is to support the police to the best of our ability and to not do anything that could in fact have the opposite effect and either kind of undermine police efforts or inflame the situation. And so that's why we work in concert in that regard.
Est-ce qu'il serait possible d'avoir une réponse en français, Monsieur White? Je ne sais pas si vous parlez français.
We have an answer in French, Mr. White. I don't know if you speak French. We recognize that an injunction is a supportive measure to assist the police force, but it's not a substitute.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you.
We will now be going to Stephen Hoff at CBC National.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I'm wondering why it seems that as soon as the protesters seem to be hopscotching around the city and setting up camps at different parking lots, why are they being allowed to do this, and why isn't the city taking more steps to keep them from setting up what seem to be supply depots and parking lots around the city?
Hi, Stephen. Steve Kanlakis here, city manager. Well, that's a question really that should be directed to police, and they're not on this call. I think that the challenge has been that the people that have been operating those vehicles, if they're not managed in terms of trying to put them in a place where we can manage the situation, they're going to park them wherever they want. And that's happened in some cases, as you see downtown. I don't know if you're in Ottawa or where you're from, but at Rideau and Sussex, for instance, we have a blockade of one of the major intersections of the city heading into downtown. And the trucks basically just parked there despite the police trying to direct them away. So the wins that the police try to get is that they try to put them in a place where it's manageable, versus them parking them all over the different types of streets, downtowns, and residential neighborhoods, causing further disruption. Because the trucks are here, they're not leaving, and they're choosing to stay. And if they're going to stay, we're trying to mitigate as much as possible the disruption that they can cause by basically parking and leaving their trucks wherever they want. And so that's been the challenge for us when you have so many vehicles that have come into the city all at once. And police, I think, have been doing their best to try and keep them from growing onto the traffic thoroughfares and keep them away from that. And unfortunately, once they stay, they start turning into gathering places for the other protesters. And that's the issue the police are dealing with. And they tried to deal with the other night at our baseball stadium, where they at least were trying to get some of the supply lines and to mitigate the impact of that group that have basically encamped there.
Okay, and this isn't my follow-up, but just wondering, are the police doing their own press conference? Because at council, Steve Bell was supposed to be at this one. And then I have a follow-up for the mayor.
Hi, Stephen. It's Keena at Media Relations. I understand that the police will be providing further information today. That's the only information that I have. Please direct that question to their Media Relations office.
Okay, 100%. Thanks, Keena. And for the mayor, have you considered meeting with the protest organizers? I know that you floated the idea of a mediator, but have you thought about meeting them in your capacity as the mayor of Ottawa?
The short answer is when all of the vehicles are out of the downtown core, I'd be happy to meet with them, but I'm not going to reward bad behavior by giving them a meeting that they would use for political purposes. If there's nothing in it for the city or the citizens of this community that have suffered greatly as a result of their outrageous behavior. So move the vehicles and then you can come to City Hall, we'll have a meeting. I'm not sure what it would accomplish because, as you know, the mandates are governed by the provincial government and the federal government. But if they want to meet with the mayor, I'm happy to do so, but they've got to get rid of all of their rigs and clean up the mess that they've created in our city and give the city back to the residents of this beautiful capital. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now be going to Alex Gouge at City News.
Hello, I just have one quick question for Mayor Watson today. Given the proximity of the new encampment at 1500 Bronson, since Carleton University is just across the river and so is the Brewer Arena Testing Center, does this bring any concerns to you?
I think as the city manager indicated, all of the options in terms of where to put these vehicles are not great options. We're overcrowded at capacity in the downtown core, and the police made the decision that we have to get them parked in parking lots as opposed to blocking streets like they tried to do yesterday with Metcalfe Street. So it's the lesser of many evils. I don't like seeing it going into those neighborhoods, but better to have them cordoned off in one particular area as opposed to trying to go down a narrow street in Centertown, blocking emergency vehicles and the like. Thank you.
Thank you. That's my only question today.
Thank you, Alex. We'll now be going to Ted Raymond at CTV Ottawa.
Hi there. This question is for the mayor. I'm wondering if you can lay out a little bit about what direct and specific actions you and City Council have done to bring an end to this protest. I know that you've sent notes to higher levels of government, you've had conversations, you're having more conversations, but at the city level itself, can you describe some of the actions to help residents or end the convoy that you have taken and are taking?
Thank you. Well, from the outset, we indicated to the city manager and our senior staff that we will spare no expense to get this occupation out of Ottawa as soon as possible. We passed, I signed the declaration of the state of emergency that frees up our ability to go after equipment and supplies in a much more expedient fashion. We have been supporting the police with communication support because they're not used to the kind of daily questioning that we have here at City Hall. And we've backed our police service because they're the group responsible for ensuring that this comes to a peaceful ending. And I've been meeting with our federal and provincial counterparts probably several times a day with different ministers. We did secure additional RCMP officers as a result of our interventions. And I've been working with mayors from across Ontario, as has the chief, and they've been very supportive of getting more officers here. So if you're in the downtown, you'll see officers from Durham, Peel, Toronto, London, Hamilton. And I had another call with those mayors just a few days ago during the Big City Mayors Caucus. And they have all pledged whatever help they can give, that they will. And those people are arriving literally every couple of days to help us and to give some relief to our police officers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And my follow-up, I guess, would also be to you, Mayor Watson, just with the police not present today. If the 1,800 resources, like the full complement, doesn't arrive, if we get fewer than that, do you foresee that this protest could potentially go on indefinitely, or at least until all of the provincial governments eventually just on their own take down these mandates that they say they're staying here for? Or like these resources, we need these extra 1,800 to get this to an end, is what police are indicating. Do you think that without that, this is just going to keep going?
Well, Ted, it's a very good question. And unfortunately, I don't have a good answer because I can't predict the future. I wish I could. I wish this whole nightmare had ended 2 weeks ago. You know, come in, have your protest and leave. You've left your message behind, and then go to your provincial governments, as you pointed out, and deal with them on their mandates, because most of the mandates come from the provincial government, not the federal government. So at the end of the day, I can't predict when this is going to be over, but one of the ways it's going to be over is a greater police presence to control things like gasoline still getting into the red zone, the outrageous behavior of those involved with the convoy in different residential neighborhoods. I just got word, I'll ask Kim Ayat to talk about the request that we put in to increase fines. That's just been approved, bringing those fines for things like idling up to $1,000. So, we continue to put pressure. Hundreds and hundreds of tickets have been issued. And we have heard anecdotally, some people have left because they have to get back to work. They can't simply stay in Ottawa, running their vehicles, and there's no income coming in for them. So, Kim, do you want to just confirm what you just sent me with respect to the decision just a few moments ago about the fines?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. I just received confirmation that the Regional Senior Justice of the Ontario Court of Justice has increased the following fines to their maximum of $1,000. That's the noise bylaw. It was $490. It is now $1,000. The idling bylaw, it was $100. It is now $1,000. Use of care of roads bylaw from $350 to $1,000. And the open air fire bylaw from $100 to $1,000.
Monsieur Ayotte, pouvez-vous nous donner ça en français? Là, je sais que ça peut être
Can you
compliqué.
repeat in French? I know it might be a little complicated, especially for the word idling. Can you repeat, please? Can I send you this information afterwards? We're going to be using our media relations people.
Merci beaucoup. Up next, we have Mr. Julio Rivas at Agencia EFE.
Thank you very much for taking my question. It has been 13 days since the protest started, and this kind of demonstrations needs a lot of organization. What can you tell us about the logistics and level of organization of the protests? Are you surprised?
Sorry, who are you directing that to? And it didn't come across very clear, the last question, sir.
Sorry, Mayor. It could be yourself. And the last part of the question is if you have been surprised by the level of organization of the protest.
Well, first and foremost, I think most people, when they see protests on the Hill, around the Hill, people come, they protest, and they leave. These people came, protested, and they haven't left. And that's caused great stress in our community. It's costing a small fortune in tax dollars to deal with this occupation. And my message has been consistent since day one or day two. Day one, they could protest. Day two, they should have gone back to their provincial capitals. They aren't, and that's why we've been taking a number of steps, including requesting increase in fines. We very much appreciate and admire the young woman who brought the court action on the noise and the horns, because that was just devastating to people in Centertown and Lower Town and the Byward Market. And, on one hand, we certainly see a sense of organization, but then on the other hand, there's a sense of disorganization. Some of the press conferences we've seen are out of a Monty Python sketch. I'll sit down with the Governor General, I'll sit down with the Bloc Québécois. They're living in a parallel universe that just does not make any sense, and they're embarrassing themselves. I think they should get on their way, go back to their homes, and give back our city to its people. Thank you.
And as a follow-up, what do you need to end the protests? Can you really do anything to put an end to the occupation?
Well, it will either be a negotiated end or an enforcement end. There aren't a lot of choices. Those are the two really that it boils down to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, we will go to Craig Lord at Global Ottawa. Okay, Craig is not on the line. We will now be going to Christy Kirkup at Globe and Mail.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm wondering, perhaps this question is best placed for the city manager. I know you've talked about the logistical challenges of tow truck companies not being willing to help in the removal of some of the big vehicles that are downtown. What can you do about this? Can you get tow trucks from other jurisdictions, or what can be done to address the fact that tow truck companies are just not willing to play ball?
Yeah, that's been our challenge, obviously, in that we need tow trucks at some point, whether it's to end it through enforcement or if they leave and some trucks, are impounded or whatever those situations will be. We are reaching out to everyone that we can in terms of seeing if there's tow trucks available, and we're not having a lot of luck with that, but we are also getting great information from other people who are in the industry who are offering other alternatives in terms of how to move a vehicle like that. So that's something we're pursuing, and there are some other options obviously that we're pursuing that I'm not sharing, that I can't share right now publicly, but it certainly is one of the challenges we have here, that right now it's very difficult to tow because many of the trucks are lined up, back to back, and you can't get a tow truck in there. So you'd have to swing them out with a heavy wrecker and try to get access to them. But from a policing perspective, in our conversations with police, it's a huge logistical challenge to move a truck, especially if the driver's not cooperating, and especially if you have a hostile crowd around you. It takes a lot of resources to protect the scene, a lot of resources to be able to hook up that truck and move it. And so police are looking at that. We're supporting them and seeing what tow truck operators will be willing to participate. But so far, all of them, or most of them, I shouldn't say all of them because we haven't finished contacting everyone. They are taking the position that this is not good for their business. There could be other reasons. They're not sharing them with us. We do know that some of their staff don't want to engage for a number of reasons, for their own safety, support for the protesters, all kinds of reasons. And so that leaves us with limited options, but we are exploring other options. They're just not as convenient as being able to use the heavy wreckers directly.
Thank you. And I'm just wondering on another matter. I know this came up at council today a bit about the concerns about fire safety, but I'm just wondering if perhaps one of you could speak to that. I've heard from business owners, particularly those on Spark Street, that say that beyond their concern about the behavior of demonstrators, one of the things that's weighing on their mind is the presence of diesel and worry that there could be an explosion. Is that a concern? Could there be a potential explosion in the downtown core given the presence of diesel that has been there for some time?
I'll ask Kim Ayat, who's our former fire chief, who knows this file very well. But it's also another issue is the stench of diesel that is all throughout the downtown that is clearly not good for one's health. And I think, as you pointed out, the situation was untenable at Confederation Park, where you had a wooden shack next to a whole series of propane tanks and gas canisters. It doesn't take sort of a grade 5 science student to figure out this is not a good combination, and that's why the police moved on it quickly. Kim?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, of course, I certainly don't want to fearmonger and make it sound like, these individual containers could explode at any one point in time. However, that being said, large quantities of liquid accelerant collected together, as the mayor indicated, in a compound would certainly cause us great concern. And we acted on that both at Confederation Park and at Coventry. Individual containers pose less of a concern. However, when we have multiple individual containers, all congregated together, or not congregating, all together in a specific area, then there is concern. And I agree with the mayor, the fumes of the diesel is probably more of a health hazard right now than the risk of the flammable liquids. However, it is still a risk. And also open air fires add to that risk. Embers can fly, can catch any of our buildings on fire. There's a reason why we don't allow open air fires in the downtown core of Ottawa. And we do go in regularly with our fire services and the police with the police escort to go in and extinguish them whenever we see them. So we have been doing that since the beginning of the protests. That being said, our employee safety is number one. And as a result of that, we were only doing it when it was safe to do so with the police escort. So sometimes it would take a little longer, but we'd monitor the situation carefully. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nous allons maintenant passer à Boris Proulx à Le Devoir.
Bonjour, ma question est pour Monsieur le maire.
Hello. My question is for Mayor Watson. The organizer are telling us that the liaison officer didn't ask formally the trucker to move their trucks. Can you confirm that? Did they convey the message to every truck drivers?
Oui, la réponse est oui.
The short answer is yes. We sent that message more than once, and we also gave them parking tickets. I'm sure that the drivers do understand that it's illegal to park on a sidewalk on Wellington Street. They know well the laws. Police agents are asking them to leave Wellington Street, and they're refusing. And that's the reason why we gave a lot of parking tickets, because this is against the provincial laws and municipal laws. Follow-up question? There might be a little bit of confusion because we do not have a rep within from the police. Do you have any insubordination issues? Do they really obey your orders on the ground? Once more, this is a question for the Ottawa Police Service. It's for OPS. I can't answer. Thank you so much, Boris. Please do get in touch with the media relations from SPO. Julien Paquette, Le Droit. It's a question for Mayor Watson. Today, you voted to cancel all meetings until February 18th. It was also a proposal that was made on Monday. What changed since Monday? Because this time this motion was accepted. A priority for me and more than half of the elected is that the planning committee's meeting will be held tomorrow. And we have one element that is very important on the agenda, which is the Civic Hospital. Councillor McKinney accepted our proposal, and then we're canceling all other meetings. For example, right now in the Environmental Committee's meeting, there were not too many topics on the agenda. So we have consensus. So this will be good for the Civic Hospital and this very important project, like Councillor McKinney accepted the suggestion, and this was voted unanimously. We're trying to find good solutions, and this will be satisfying to all council members. My second question is not concerning the protests, but concerning the embassy projects. Many reasons were mentioned today by people opposing to that embassy project. According to you, why is it that this project is not a good project and you're not supporting it? I do believe that elected have to protect green spaces within Ottawa downtown. We don't have so many green spaces here. So this is actually a park used by the residents from Mechanicsville. That's the reason why I voted against this solution. I think the NCC need to find somewhere else for these embassies. At the same time, we have to protect this green space. This is a priority for us. Thank you so much. Ariane from La Presse, go ahead. Ariane, thank you so much. I just arrived, so maybe the question was already asked. When you were talking about towing, do you think the militaries is a solution? Did you thought about that? Was it one of the options?
I think Kim Ayat va répondre sur cette question.
Kim Ayat will answer this question, as well as the general manager. Actually, this question was answered 2 hours ago during the meeting, but I will complement. Thank you for your question. As it was discussed during the council meeting, if we're requesting military equipment, it's exactly the same thing as asking military aid. Right now, we haven't reached that point, and we actually need the authorization of the federal government. There's a process to follow. So we can also ask aid from the province. So asking for military equipment is the same as asking military aid. Follow-up question? So when you're talking about... Okay, you ask some towing companies to help you out. I know that in Quebec it was kind of complicated. How far did you go when you were calling on these companies? Actually, we're keeping on calling on companies. We're looking throughout the country and even outside, throughout the province and also outside of the province of Ontario. We're not only having a problem with towings, but we have other options that are under discussion right now with the police service. We can't provide you with details for now. So even though we can't find towings, we might be able to do something that will be pretty similar. Thank you. Thank you, Monsieur Ayat.
Thanks, Kina. Mayor Watson, what will you be asking of provincial officials this afternoon? And which upper level of government do you think has the power to help the municipality the most in ending the protest?
Thanks, John. Well, the request is the same. As you know, that the total count was 1,800. I view it as 600 from each order of government, 600 from the federal government, 600 from the provincial government, and 600 from other municipal forces in the City of Ottawa. With respect to who has the power to end this, it really is a joint responsibility between the two orders of government. As you know, we are creatures of the province according to the Constitution, so we have to rely on their support. And obviously, this is an international issue when it comes to the mandate going across the U.S. border, so the federal government's involved. So it really has to be all hands on deck. It's not a question of trying to parse out, well, is it this much the federal government or the provincial government? The bottom line is that we're caught in the middle, and we need to all be moving in the same direction. So certainly the call I had with Premier Ford a few days ago, where he said, whatever resources you need, we're there to deliver them. And I look forward to that conversation with the Solicitor General later today, just as I had a very positive response from our colleagues at the federal level. And now we have to work out the logistics, because it's one thing to send a letter and ask for 1,800. It's another thing to get the troops and not the troops, but the boots on the ground here in Ottawa. So we want to do that as quickly as possible in a staged and managed aspect. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. And for Kim Ayat, do the new set fines apply only to the protest-related enforcement activities? For example, are those fines also applicable to Canada, Orleans, Barrhaven, and the villages? And if I could ask just a second part of that question, have officers been issuing multiple tickets to the same offending vehicles related to the protest?
Thanks, John. Yeah, no, these set fines are related to the protest. So it is for the downtown area and any of the protesters specific. That's how it was requested. I haven't actually seen, so I just got notification that they have been approved. I haven't actually seen whether there's any conditions to the approval. So, well, we may have more information for you as time goes on. And with regards to your second question, sorry, what was it?
Yeah, no problem. I'm just wondering if multiple tickets have been written for offending vehicles in the protest area.
Yeah, I'd have to get back to you. I know we wrote 154 tickets yesterday in the red zone in the area. So I can certainly get back to you on that as well and get more information and provide that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just anecdotally, sorry, Kim, just to John, just anecdotally, when I was in the red zone the other day, I saw one pickup truck that had 3 or 4 tickets in the windshield. So I think they are going back because, you know, I think we need to make the sting a little stronger for these people to understand that, you know, by the way, you don't pay your tickets, you're not going to get your license renewed. Certainly in Ontario, that's the rule. Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll follow up with you, John. Nous allons maintenant passer à Frédéric Pépin, Radio-Canada.
Frédéric Pépin, Radio-Canada. Go ahead. Mayor Watson, I know that you already talked about that. You talked about the injunction. We saw on social media that residents were wondering, why isn't it that the City of Ottawa didn't act before a private citizen? She used her own lawyers. So why is it that the City of Ottawa didn't ask for an injunction first? Was it something you didn't think of? I think our lawyer answered that question earlier today. Maybe we can ask him to repeat it. Can you explain, please, the situation and the process used by the City of Ottawa? And what's the role of the Ottawa Police Services in that? The City of Ottawa didn't participate in this legal process with this injunction from a private citizen. Normally, we're supporting the municipal police services. If OPS thought that an injunction will help them, then yes, this is something we would have done. Anything that can actually help them, we will do so. Mayor Watson, you talked to the Prime Minister Trudeau yesterday. Yes, of course, you requested some help and you possibly talked about military aid. Did it went further, such as what kind of strategies could you use to end the protests? What were the main topics discussed with the Prime Minister? There were no discussion with the Prime Minister or other departments referring to the armed force of Canada. What I did was to update the Prime Minister with what was happening downtown in Ottawa. I told him that we needed to convince the 2 other levels of government. We need support for the people who lost their job, for the businesses who lost their clients. Right now, it's not an official lockdown. It's because of the protests. And as you know, it's very important to support people who lost their hours, their shifts. Let's say in a small store on Bank Street or Elgin Street, even at the Rideau Center. Rideau Center lost millions of dollars in sales. So this was the first topic that I tackled with the government. So I asked them to also provide us with more police officers. It was not a request for military aid. Thank you. I'll give the floor to Marie-Christine Villeneuve from TVA. Mayor Watson, what do you think about the tactics, sending trucks in different areas, such as Bronson Avenue, just to avoid them clogging downtown? Do you think this is a good tactic? Because you're only spreading the problem, isn't it? Once more, this is an OPS decision. We explained the situation. There's no more space downtown. Trucks are coming in. It's better to have one specific parking place for them. It's not the best solution in the world, but we don't have much choice right now. Residential streets are clogged downtown Ottawa. So right now, you're waiting for extra help before you can move on and put an end to the protest, to the occupation. According to you, do you think that we can have a solution within the next few days? Once more, very good question, but I don't have a good answer for you. I can't predict the future. Like I said, the sooner the better. This is completely unacceptable and very difficult. This is having an impact on the health of our residents downtown. So it's time to say to the organizer to leave and say goodbye. This protest has been going on for too long. I hope we will be able to convince them to leave the City of Ottawa. It's a difficult situation. The solutions are not easy. Look at what's going on in Windsor, Detroit, what's going on in Alberta, Coutts. We're facing a crisis here in Ottawa. So the organizers, at one point, actually, they receive a lot of coverage in the media, so now it's time to lobby the provinces. Because most of the responsibilities, the mandate, the COVID mandates, are under the provincial jurisdiction.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much.
This concludes our media availability for today. Ceci conclut notre point de presse pour aujourd'hui. Je souhaite une bonne journée à tout le monde. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a nice day.
Them makes all the difference.
A lot of businesses, of course, need help, when they first begin and, trying to get off the ground. I understand yourselves ended up getting a grant. Maybe you could tell me a little bit more about that grant and how important it was to your business.
Yeah, well,